So, one of the things for me that excites me so much is, I really think that this is, really, and NFTs can be anything, right? They can be infinite. And for me, one of the really amazing things about coming to NFT.NYC is to be able to hear people talk about stuff that kind of blows your mind about what NFTs can be. And I think, our next panel, is talking about how it can change social behavior. And like for me, what is, I'm super excited about authenticity. I think, the NFTs will enable all kinds of new levels of authenticity. Let's give a big hand to our next panel.
Grab your mics, they're on the table.
Hello, hello. Thank you very much. I'm so honored to be here and be amongst these amazing speakers. We're just going to do a little around the horn so you can see what we do, our background a little bit, and then we'll get right into it. So I'm going to start with Jamiel.
Hey guys, good morning. My name is Jamiel. I do a bunch of different things, especially in New York City. Most important, I run a startup called Instamint, or Instamint like Instagram, which is a B2B NFT API and analytics platform. We got funded by Algorand, Harmony, The Graph, Near Protocol. We're building. I'm just going to go do this and then go back and code. And I also run another company called Chain House. I run the largest blockchain community in New York City. It's called NYC. We're about 35,000 people. I teach as an adjunct at Columbia, NYU, CUNY, and in China, Zhejiang University. I run a think tank called CBDC Think Tank, which also does a lot of work with central banks around CBDCs. I wrote a book on the core to blockchain, and I'm writing another book on DeFi called Finance 3.0.
Jill, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jill. I'm a business psychologist and coach, and I'm originally from Germany. I came the way here, and you might ask yourself, why the hell does a business psychologist come to New York to speak about NFTs? Don't worry, you're not alone. A lot of people actually asked me that question during the last few days, but yeah, I'm here to give you an answer on that.
Hello, I'm Gannon Breslin. Little diverse background. I'm a commercial sailor, and I'm also in the Navy. And I started The Drop, which is a daily NFT newsletter. And we take pride in vetting projects, breaking news, and delivering it to your mailbox every single day. It's been an amazing ride over the past 8 months, and I'm so happy for our team that I get up to be here and enjoy this. Andrew, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Andrew Schreiber. Thanks for waking up after a wild night last night to be here, guys. I am working on a where-to-earn platform called Adorn, which sort of allows you to monetize your profile picture space. I'm an engineer and collector, and a big fan of the NFT community. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Jamiel, take it away.
Oh, what do you want me to talk about?
Are NFTs changing our social behavior?
Oh, yeah. So I run a pretty large community. I can really look at the community's behavior and kind of identify some of the things that I see occurring, right? So I started this community in 2017. It was 3 people. The first meetup that we had was 3 people. Now we really can't find a venue big enough, right? But when the crypto market took a downturn 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, more rapidly last week, I would just get all these emails and messages from people panicking and things like that. And you can see there's a kind of people caught in surprise, and they're shocked, and they're wondering if they're going to be able to pay rent and things like that, right? So the space, like the NFT space, we've seen lots of ups and downs. We've seen some severe upside and some severe downside right now. And some of the things that we can really draw on literature that exists, like academic literature that exists already on behavioral finance, right? So we see some of these things already studied a long time ago in behavioral finance. And one of them, I can go over like 3 or 4 of them if we have time. I'll start off with one and I'll pass it back to Gannon, is the idea that we take pessimism and optimism and we extrapolate it into the future, right? So there's this tendency to take, if things are going really, really well, we try to extrapolate it into the future and say, well, things are going to continue to go well, even though we do say that, hey, this can't go on forever. We do act like it goes on forever. And then on the pessimist side or on the bear market side, we start to say, oh, maybe this will never come back. And I think we saw an article in the Wall Street Journal, or the Times 2 days ago, that the crypto party is over. That's not really true. Well, really, I encourage a lot of the people that are in the communities to look at the trend lines, right? The trend lines, right, the kind of the deep undercurrent trend lines are continuously increasing and moving, like adoption is increasing, everything's increasing. The volatility that we see around that trend line is up and down, and people start to anchor themselves to that volatility instead of anchoring themselves with that trend line. And so we see that happening in the community, and a lot of people are, they're rich one day and they're broke the next day, and they're rich again and they're broke again. And it's having an impact. The second thing that I see, and again, we see this in literature, there's data to support this. For example, in the world of lottery tickets, the biggest buyers of the lottery tickets are the people that typically can't afford it, right? So an NFT might be a lottery ticket to a lot of people. Unfortunately, the people that are going to buy it and buy into the wrong NFTs in the hopes of that it rises up in price are the people that should not be buying it. And so there is this negative social impact. So there's this occurring also in the space. So like I know we're in an NFT conference, it's going to be hurrah, hurrah, let's go NFTs, but then there's also this reality that we see that the community needs to anchor itself to more solid trend lines and also not go into this technology as if it's a lottery ticket.
I think a really interesting point that you brought up was the concept of, feeling like a permanence. When we're in the bear market, everyone's doom and gloom, and it feels like it's never going to end. When it's the opposite, it feels like we're in, eternal bliss. And I feel like with the way this space and everything is going, it's not just about the price, obviously. The community as a whole, the attitude also feels like it goes through that fluctuation. And I just hope that, over time, I've seen it here going out, everyone's probably seen it, that people are here because they enjoy this space, right? Whether the price is up, the price is down, and that's something amazing to see, so.
Yeah, building on top of that, I feel like, the death of NFTs has been much overhyped. I don't know who else remembers this, but over a year ago, there was kind of this moment, maybe in the summer of 2021, when people suddenly, there was a big crash in the market, and everyone's like, oh, like news outlets were really happy to say, like, this is it, guys, like it's come and it's went. And I found it fascinating how the NFT community sort of integrated that. We had sort of the fast food NFT avatars where people were just laughing how they're going to have to join McDonald's and adding the McDonald's hat to their PFPs. And, I think we're kind of seeing that same behavior now with, the crypto boy mix-ups, where the NFT community, I feel like, has a great way of incorporating the criticism, the teasing, and that just goes to show its strength.
Definitely agree. Jill, go ahead. I want to hear.
Yeah, you already said it. I think we are all here also because it just feels good, Being around NFT people just feels great. So that was actually what took me here to speak about psychology related to NFTs. Why does it feel good? Because, I'm coming from a society where I used to do what my parents said. Maybe all of you did, I don't know. In my society, when my dad said, you should become a doctor, I become a doctor, that's it, that's your life. And now what fascinated me about the NFT market and basically it's not a market, it's an industry. We are making money. Was that, it was different. It felt like everything was allowed as long as it is authentic. And what I knew from my past is that everything was allowed as long as it's not authentic. You do everything like the traditional social media. Nothing is authentic about that. We are lying. In our lifestyle that we created, in the way we did business, everything was the opposite of authentic. And now I feel like we found a way of creating an industry from the scratch on. We are able to build it up, and it's us. We are sharpening this industry. It's nobody else than us. And I think it was never like that before, because the traditional industries are being led by traditional companies with their eventually outdated values and rules. And now we are able to apply our true values to a completely new industry. And that kind of, it touches me. That does a lot to me. And so I observed the market a lot. And there are two major things from my point of view that changes the way we act socially. So it's, first of all, about authenticity. Authenticity is key in this market because we have real and honest connections in here. We have strong connections. We have a very strong community. It feels like a family get-together. I mean, we are thousands of people, but it feels like you're meeting family and friends. So this is about authenticity. And of course, you can lie in this industry as well. A lot of people do. But it's not taking you anywhere because sooner or later, people will sense it. Sometimes it's a bit too late, but people sense it, and we trust our intuition, which is part of being authentic, and I really like that. And the other thing is we are taking care of our mental health as well. I know that might sound a bit silly in the first place, but I never saw people talking so much about mental health, about taking breaks, because we all know how exhausting it can be to be involved in so many Discord channels, in Twitter accounts, spaces, whatever. Meanwhile, I completely got lost, to be honest, but I think I'm not alone. And I really like the fact that we are being and getting more aware of things like mindfulness, mental health, because that's important. The way we did business before, the way we created our lifestyle before was kind of, pardon my French, but that was shit, because we all got sick. We were depressed, and maybe we still are. Burnout rates are alarmingly high, so there has to be a change. And now the NFT industry eventually has the ability to change a whole society because we are the early birds. We know, I guess all people know how it works, but we don't have the opportunity to apply it to an industry. But we all sitting here, we do. We have the opportunity. So I'm very excited where all of this is leading us. Basically I would like to observe everything and sit around with a bucket full of popcorn and watch you all do your thing. So that's pretty much it. There's nothing left to say for me than cheers to NFTs. I really like it. Yeah, thanks.
It does feel like a family. I liked your point about that. Something that I've noticed just in the past year alone, I was fortunate enough to come to NFT.NYC City last year, and looking at being at events, get-togethers, parties, I saw a lot of first-time introductions. Awkward, hi, I do this, blah, 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 blah. And then in the past couple days, I see people running up to people, hugging them. Oh my gosh, I've seen you again, And so a lot of familiar faces, and it's really taking mold, this family aspect. So that's something I just wanted to point out that I really liked about you.
Yeah, I certainly feel that. I think to your point of authenticity, you know, one of the kind of interesting phenomena is how people can be, you know, honest to strangers on airplanes, telling them things that they wouldn't even tell their closest family members or friends. You know, there's sort of this empowerment that you get from the ability to kind of create a new identity. And I feel like the NFT world is one in which that is absolutely the case. And so, you know, to what extent that is responsible for the incredibly authentic conversations we're seeing, I'm not sure, but I do think it's an interesting phenomenon.
So in my point of view, when it comes to how NFTs are changing our social behavior, something that I'm in tune with is the community on Twitter, Discord. I'm fortunate enough that I have hundreds of projects come across my table to put out in our publication. Kind of a joke that I say is that we're experts in what doesn't work, because we get a lot of projects. Hey, we're doing this. Hey, this is how we're tweeting out to our community. How can we help? And we track these projects. We see how they evolve, how they grow their communities. And the community and the social behavior of the community itself has evolved in lightning speed in 8 months. Before, you know, I would say 8 months ago, you could kind of get away with ill communities, but it's evolved to now people are becoming much more aware. So a prime example would be on Discord or Twitter. The entire behavior of the community is solely focused on the price. In my mind, that is like one of the biggest red flags for investing in an NFT or being a part of that community. Because if that's the sole thing that they're focused on, what Jamiel was talking about earlier with trend lines going up and down, you know, when that bear market happens or when that floor price takes a dip, those are the first people to leave that community. And so that's something that I always look forward to and really try to dig deep into what does the community think about the project, how is the project itself communicating to their community. If you have announcements that are in a disarray, if they're changing what they're saying and then, you know, going back on their word, that's a massive red flag in my mind. Of course, this is, you know, a very interesting panel. We have psychologists, traditional finance. I'm the media guy. So I'm just, from my point of view, is that the social behavior of NFTs as a whole is so reliant on how the project communicates to its community and how the community responds to that either announcement or that event. And lucky enough, all the events that I've been to, it's been so awesome to see the community get to meet the founders, get to meet the team. And I think that goes to show, like, people that take the time to create an event, people that take the time to go on Twitter Spaces, talk to their community, it makes them feel like family, it makes them feel like we're all in this together. So those are key indicators that I look for when we're vetting a project, when we're talking about a project, is how is the communication getting across? How is the community receiving this communication? If it's ill on either side, that's when my ears perk up and I go, there might be something off here. And more often than not, if there's an issue on either side, it's a project that we see kind of wash away. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting how you know, there are so many communities for every different niche, and I'm actually really curious. You know, is there a niche that you find hasn't been explored? You've seen all these projects. I'm sure a lot of people in the crowd have seen a lot of things, but you know, as someone who's evaluating making these choices, is there something that you're wondering, hey, like, how has this not been done yet?
Well, I think Goblin Town was very unique. I didn't see that one coming. I don't think anyone did. Purely fueled by memes, purely fueled by almost this like desperation of everyone feeling like their portfolio is hurting, and then out of the blue, this project that is centered around having fun, or kind of making a fool, right? And posting the most ridiculous stuff. And that's what I've started to notice is you have to do something unique now. Derivative projects, X, Y, and Z, aren't taking off in the way that they used to. And so those are the new areas that people are exploring. How do we do something new? How do we do something unique that's just gonna create a buzz, right? I would say that's kind of the vibe there.
I mean, one of the things that I focus on, and like running a community, and I did a talk at NFT.NYC November last year on what NFTs are about, and I broke it down to provenance, right? The provenance of an asset is absolutely critical. And if you take provenance, the word provenance, and you break it down, you can break it down into a few different components. One of those components is the creator of that asset. The second is the community behind and around that asset and that creator. And the third is story, right? The idea of a story. If you look at Leonardo da Vinci's story around that person, and we can get into trouble when we tell stories. It's actually a good thing as well as a bad thing. And what I find, I'm kind of playing the role of a doctor or a therapist when I run a community, because there's some of the social behaviors that we see in the community. For example, this enormous amount of misinformation being spread by individuals behind anonymous Twitter accounts and things like that. And as somebody that runs this community, I have to respond to that and make sure that the community is aware that some of this is bullshit, right? This is problematic. So we do see a social behavior in the community where people are believing whatever's coming out, whatever's being tweeted, whatever Elon is tweeting, whatever somebody else is tweeting, they're believing it, and then they're acting upon it. So as a community, the antidote to whatever social behaviors that we might feel are going to hurt us is education. So our community is heavily focused on education. If somebody comes into the community and teaches, they're not allowed to sell, right? They're actually, like, if they try to sell anything, we'll have a security guard grab them and walk them out, right? And so that focus on education is an important, I would say, antidote to social behaviors that could lead to harm to the community, and that's kind of been our focus for the past few years. Like we like, as somebody who runs the community, we see all the good things that occur, but nobody's really focused on some of the problems that are happening, especially now. There's a lot of people that are depressed, a lot of people that are not coming to these conferences, that used to come to these conferences, but like they can't come out anymore because they don't have the courage to face the music that their portfolio is down 80%. So who's talking to them? We are. Well, we're emailing them saying, hey, come out, and where are you? Haven't seen you, and things like that. So while there's a lot of focus on the upside and upside of the social behavior, there's all this ill and sickness that's occurring that there is really no focus. And it's easy to like party when things are going up, but when things are going down, who's taking care of the trouble that's occurring, right? That social behavior that's now changing. I was speaking to one guy who was DMing me on Slack a few days ago, and I called him up and he was crying. He's this grown man, right? He's like 6'5", 240 pounds, strong guy, and he was crying. Just crying, because he was like, I don't understand how to deal with the world right now. And I had to walk him through kind of like, hey, just take one day at a time. So there is this upside that I think a lot of people is very easy to talk about, and there's this negative side that's occurring, that NFTs are impacting, not the technology itself, but the industry, the way it's forming. We are in an anomaly. This situation is in an anomaly right now. This is not a normal situation. And over time, I think over the next 10 years, this will start to like cool down. It will start to become mainstream. I just came back from Vietnam, which has the most cryptos It's the most widely held population that has cryptos per capita. And actually, I'm going to Kazakhstan Friday night. And you talk, and back to Vietnam, and you talk to the person on the street about what NFTs are, and they have no clue, right? So I think we're in the very, very early stages. It was really, really important to help manage social behavior in a way that is constructive and positive is education.
I 100% agree. Always a good thing to do, and some of the healthiest communities that I see, they ask each other how they're doing, right? In the Discord, on Twitter, DMs. And I think that's a really good practice and something that we really need to focus on, especially during this time of the market. You know, there's some people that are hurting, for sure, mentally coming out of COVID, and then also, you know, this market that we're in. So I always find it important to, you know, talk about NFTs, but also say, hey, how are you doing? And
How are you doing?
yeah. I'm doing great.
Terrific. Let's give him a big hand. Yes, the panel's over, sorry.